If you don't learn along the way what your stuff is, I'll call it your trauma or your karma or the things you've got to figure out. It doesn't matter how successful you're going to be, you're going to crash and burn.
Hello, and welcome to Holistic Ambition, where we talk with visionary leaders who are redefining what it means to be ambitious and successful. We cover ways that you can live with more well-being, meaning, and fun in your career, business, and relationships. I'm your host, Stephanie Thoma, life coach for ambitious professionals and author of Confident Introvert. Today, we have Laura with us. So Laura McCann is the founder and CEO of Adora Therapy. Laura invites us on a journey of healing our energy field through breath and intention using all natural essential oils-based fragrances. After many years as a successful entrepreneur in fashion, retail, and tech, Laura experienced major health issues culminating from years of stress. On her journey to recovery, she opened herself to healing her mind, body, and spirit. Aromatherapy combined with breathwork changed her life. Adora Therapy's unique perspective on conscious beauty transcends ingredients, formulation, and traditional fragrance methods by creating breathable scents. Laura is called a life coach in a bottle. Her chakra oil blends and water-based aura sprays literally go beyond, reminding you to adore yourself one breath at a time. So can you tell us, Laura, about this relationship with the breath and intuition and how all of that goes together?
There's a time in my life where I was doing some healing, and it was actually called rebirthing, which is a weird name for it. And the rebirthing coach would have you do this deep breathing. It's kind of like a Kundalini breath, but he would have you breathe. And the idea of the breath was that it was going to clear energy and move energy. And I remember doing it the first times, and it burned. It hurt so bad. And I realized I never actually took a deep breath. I always was breathing these shallow breaths. And it had an impact on everything. And so when I started breathing and learned how to breathe this deeper breath and understood the healing power of it, I connected with a healing method that I could do for myself. A lot of people, I think, meditate, right? And do all these things where they can alter their breathing, and it also changes their heart rate variability. So it's the same idea. But the breath is really a tool that we have that makes a difference. And if we can learn to use it in our day-to-day life, it can have a massive impact on how we feel in the moment, anytime, anywhere.
Right. And a big part of breathing is, breathing in through the nose and scents and smelling. So, can you kind of let us know more about just that relationship with scent and, being a life coach in a bottle, like how that all
So when I was introduced to aromatherapy, I really knew nothing about it. It wasn't something that a lot of people who maybe are in mainstream beauty, right? Or, people that are more like oriented towards buying their products in a beauty store might be aware of. Maybe if you're lucky enough that you had a parent or a mom or a friend who did essential oils and bought things from like doTERRA or Young Living, you might know more about aromatherapy. But at most, aromatherapy is a single note oil like lavender or lemongrass or cedar wood, and you're putting it in a diffuser, and it's wonderful, and diffusers are great. But the thing that I learned about aromatherapy is it's actually really a therapeutic healing method where you're using the essential oils in a way to target certain feelings, moods, and physical things that are going on. And if you pick the right ones, it becomes like a way to have natural medicine. Think of it like plant medicine or flower medicine. And so when I learned that was available to me as a modality, then I was like, I want to know more about this. And it's a complicated field because it's really technical and there's a lot to know about it. And so part of the opportunity that I had in my business was if I don't know, and I think I'm pretty, open to all kinds of things that other people might not know. So how can I become a translator of this healing method and these plants and these scents and these aromas? And how can I use that to create breath work rituals? And then how do we get more people to understand what it is and how it works, and essentially cultivate a new opportunity that maybe was missed because it just required too much education?
Yeah, and what I love about your product suite with Adora Therapy is the chakras aligning with different scents. And,
Mhm.
for anyone that this is a revelatory brand new concept for, can you maybe walk us through a few different chakras and maybe different scents that are associated and how that relationship
Oh,
works?
absolutely. So, the chakras are the energy in the body, and you can think of them as these spinning cyclones that are like in different regions. So, the root chakra is kind of like in the pubic area, like around the lower back. Grounding is really important to feel stable and have vitality. The kind of oils that work great there are oils like patchouli and cedarwood and ginger and sandalwood. So very woodsy, grounding, rooted oils, right? It makes sense. We were talking earlier about being rooted and
Mhm.
rooting oils. So plants with roots definitely help with that. So you could use a single note oil. That's always great. When you blend different oils together, oils have like a frequency. Think of them as like a harmony, just like color has a frequency and sound has a frequency. These are vibrational plant matter. So when you blend them together, you actually are creating like a unique frequency. And then that frequency, if you can match it to the frequency of the chakra, because the chakras have a frequency, it's a little bit like a lock and a key. So there's an art in this. It's also very intuitive. And then when you breathe in and you smell something of a specific kind of scent profile, like in this case, our blend for the chakra one or root chakra is called vitality. It's very woody and soft and anchoring. And so you do feel anchored in that chakra. It will probably, you can feel it anywhere, but it's designed to anchor that chakra. The sacral chakra is a really interesting one. It's the belly area. So it's where we have our reproductive organs and where we also have our hormone system and our bellies and our digestion. And so for women, this one's a very vulnerable area. It's also what we call the I feel chakra. And it's the chakra where we hold our emotions. So our blend here is a blood orange and jasmine and ylang ylang blend. And so it's very citrusy, but very soft and slightly floral. And plants like ylang ylang are very aphrodisiac. They're very healing to the feminine divine energy. What's also interesting about how we blend is that when somebody has a low chakra in that area, and there's ways that we actually know, because as you know, we do aura and chakra reading and we use software to do this. And we see the correlation between a low chakra and what people like and don't like. People don't like certain scents when they have a low chakra. It's almost like the key and the lock won't go together. And so, yeah, so there's like a correlation. If you don't like something and you don't do it or use it or try it, then you need other ways to fix that energy field. So, somebody who maybe doesn't love the scent of orange or drinking orange juice or doesn't like the color orange might need to work on their sacral because maybe they need more sacral energy. The solar plexus is
Mm.
the gut, and the gut is usually expressed as a yellow color. And this is the I can chakra. And the gut is all adrenal and mental. And we were talking about Virgos earlier, people who are like go-getters and want to make it happen and they use their mental energy. And so some of the scents that express great here are like lemon and lime. We use cinnamon in our blend, and the cinnamon is like very awakening. The heart chakra is green and it's the love expression, but it's really about compassion, giving love, receiving love, loving self is a really, really big one. And then the heart chakra, we use a beautiful gardenia flower and rose absolute and jasmine absolute. So it's a very beautiful, exotic floral blend. And again, can be triggering because people, when they smell jasmine or they smell rose, it brings up a lot of memories and floral scents that are very floral. People have real, preferences around florals. Some people don't like them at all. So it's always very interesting to see a big expressed heart and then the correlation between liking things that have these kinds of frequencies. The throat chakra, talking, speaking your truth. It's usually expressed as a blue color. And here our blend has peppermint and chamomile, sage, some lavender and some frankincense. So it's very minty. So it matches that blue color and it's very soothing to the throat and the respiratory. And then my favorite of our blends is the third eye blend. It's called Clarity. And this is IC. It's all about intuition and clarity and being able to see things, right? We've talked about that as well, and like how synchronicity plays into our self-expression. And this one, we use these beautiful sacred oils, frankincense, tulsi, which is holy basil, myrrh, spikenard, oak moss, things like that. So it's really wonderful. And then the crown is the top of the head. Think of it as like the calmest of the energies. It's usually expressed by white. We like to think of it as a pink and white energy. And that one is a lavender, cardamom, and rosewood. So chill and relax. And so all that. So imagine if you're smelling these different oil combinations. I hope you kind of imagine them based on your own scent history. Breathing them in, imagining them, visualizing a color and putting that color in the body. And then the scent itself just triggers all kinds of emotional mood memories, right? Because the limbic brain is the part of the brain that associates scent and memory. And, you smell apple pie, you think of maybe Christmas morning at your grandma's, you smell, a Cinnabon, you think of airports or the mall, or that you need to lose weight. Because if you ever eat the Cinnabon, they're like 8,000 calories. But yeah, it's like all the scents really affect us. And so breathing in an intentional breath with something that is designed to do that healing, if you do it again and again, then that memory is there and you can use it as a neural pathway kind of coach to get you back to the state you want to be in. And one of the hardest things that you probably know, because I know you're an intuitive and you do a lot of things, is that we have patterns, and those patterns are hard to reset. And often they're mental patterns and also they're neurological patterns. So how to reset them is hard. And this is a really beautiful way to do it. So
yeah, I mean, what you brought up that I just want to highlight is the power of our intuition of what feels like a yes and a no in terms of scent and color. If there's like, oh, I've always loved this color, does it align with the chakra? Maybe that is where, you are more aligned. And then if there are certain colors or scents that you're like, oh, I've never liked that, or, oh, I just have a really strong reaction to it, to be able to reverse engineer where in your life and your soul you can use some sort of healing.
yes.
I mean, just a short example, when I moved into my place, it was, some partially furnished, and the Brita filter was red. And I remember thinking I would never get a red Brita filter. No offense to anyone with one that they chose, but I would not choose it. Okay. And then I was like, wow, like, I think I just want to get something that's more understated, kind of like, just like a light shade and like a white or something. But then I ordered one and it arrived broken. And I was like, okay, fine. I'll just use this. And I've gotten used to it, but I definitely had an aversion to it at first.
Yeah.
And that aligns with being a digital nomad and traveling, not being rooted, and then being rooted.
Yeah. Oh, it's so fascinating. You're talking about a subject that I love, which is we are attracted to certain things and we don't think of them in the context of energy. Color is very much an energy decision. We think of it as a fashion decision, but when we put on color, right, we're typically saying we want to feel a certain way. And so people's preferences, whether it's in decorating their home or the color of their car or things like that, they're making a statement. I've learned, I used to be in fashion, so I used to wear black, gray, navy, right? Like those were my colors and it was fine. And in New York, I lived in New York, so it was neutral and you kind of felt like, in a way, it was great because they are grounding, but they also make you fit in. I would never wear red or orange or blue. Like I would feel like those are tacky colors, but now I want to wear color and I crave color in my wardrobe because I feel like it's energetically helping me throughout the day and it's expressing things I want more of. So it's been really fun to notice that and then to play with that. Yeah.
Right. And, you have a background as a fashion entrepreneur as well. So this ties in, I'd love to hear from you about being a fashion entrepreneur and how that parlayed itself into your path of healing, entrepreneurship.
Yeah. So, I started out, I was a fashion designer in New York City and I went to Parsons and I didn't ever know I was going to be an entrepreneur. It kind of happened. And I think it was somewhere like around maybe the second or third year that I was working where some CEO of some company told me that I should just start my own company. And I was like, I don't know what he's talking about. Like it never even occurred to me. And then somehow some friends of mine had become entrepreneurs. And I remember I read Inc. magazine. I think I was in their bathroom. And I was like, there was an Inc. magazine. And I was like, what's this entrepreneur thing? Hadn't ever really thought of it for myself. And then it just so happened that it didn't just so happen. I probably somehow, it was my course, and I created it because I always had ideas of things that I wanted to do, and if I could, but I didn't have any idea how to do it. And so I did get involved in a business where I became like a partner in a fashion business. And my partner was the sales guy and I was the designer. And that business became very, very successful. And so before I knew it, I was an entrepreneur, but I really had no idea how to be an entrepreneur. So then I invested in learning about that and joining groups like EO and, learning what it means to actually build and run a business. So it's been over 30 years now. But the fashion came in, and what I loved about my background in fashion is that as a designer, you have to kind of figure out what the trends are and put your finger on the pulse and shop and look around at what everybody's doing. And then you have to forecast a year ahead, sometimes two, right? You have to use a palette of color and material. You have to figure out how to drape and do shape and make patterns. So it's got like math, it's got art, it's got everything, right and left brain. So I've been trained that way. And then when you layer that kind of training onto entrepreneurship, it's really cool because in entrepreneurship, you need to be able to do all these things. Whether it's like creating a Canva graphic or a full-on PowerPoint deck, let's call that creative, to writing or operations, numbers, finance. It's like you need all those parts of your brain. So it was a wonderful background. And then adding the entrepreneurship layer made me learn how to work with people, also how to be a leader. My last People We Adore interview, which is what we did, we had one with you. I interviewed somebody who has an HR background, and it was just, really interesting and fascinating to really understand, how you become a leader, right? That was her whole area of expertise. And like leadership, how is it taught or do you learn it? Like, where do you even go to become a leader? So I kind of added that piece, and then now I'm like this version of myself.
Yeah. And, it's one of those things when it comes to having someone plant a seed of, like a boss saying, maybe you could be an entrepreneur. And then, so is it correct that your first venture was successful?
Yeah.
What would you, so let's say that there's someone listening to this who's a serial entrepreneur, they haven't yet had that spark of success. What do you think separates someone who is successful in business from someone who is not yet successful in business?
Okay, yeah. So I think I'd redefine success. So a lot of times for people, success is money, and it's not that. The other thing that success can be is like you have something and you get to get it off the ground and get it to go a few years or a few rounds. And then maybe it doesn't last forever. That's still success, So when we define entrepreneurship, it's not like I'm a unicorn business and I sold it for $1 billion. There are many, many things that are way not as big in there. What I also think success is, and I think you see this a lot with actors and people who are famous, is if you don't learn along the way what your stuff is, I'll call it your trauma or your karma or the things you've got to figure out. It doesn't matter how successful you're going to be, you're going to crash and burn. So you look at all these movies that have been out, from the WeWorks guy to this guy to the woman who did the blood thing, the Theranos. And it's like these people go all the way up to where everybody thinks they want to get to, and then they crash as big as, because that is the journey. The journey of success is figuring out your soul journey. And entrepreneurship is just another way to do it, where you get to bite off bigger bites or other kinds of bites to get there. And it's definitely all about looking in the mirror, and how you show up is what you get. So success is really mastering yourself as the tool, and knowing that as a tool, you're also not infallible. It's not about perfection. It's not about, maybe it's about longevity, but it's definitely about figuring out balance. And that kind of ties back into the chakras. It's like, what's balance? It's great to have big chakras, but balanced chakras may be better. It's way to have superpowers, but I'd rather have some of the ones that I know are lower be up than have all the ones that are higher be up, because balance is really the measure that we're looking for. And we talk about balance. It's a little bit like an unattainable thing, but when I'm speaking of balance, I mean it energetically, not as in like, if I work too hard, I should play hard, like not that.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Well, so I'm curious, I have a couple questions that have come up around what gave you the most clarity in terms of what your unique life path is. And yeah, we can start there.
Yeah. I now know, and I maybe wouldn't have had the words for it before, that I have a big third eye. So I have a intuitive side, and I'm also an empath. So a lot of times empaths have this intuitive piece, and if it's nurtured, then it stays there and it becomes part of, your arsenal of skills. And in my case, it's about trusting myself. And so because as an entrepreneur, you have to make so many decisions, then you exercise that muscle of clarity, because you may not have it, but you're just going to have to keep making decisions. You can't procrastinate. So you eventually learn enough from your experience that maybe your decisions are pretty good. And then when you trust yourself, then you have more of that ability to kind of like dial into that as a way to hold space for yourself. In absence of the third eye, it's all gut, right? It's all like using my gut, pushing through, perseverance, ambition, courage, all that is more gut stuff. And so it's finding where you dial in maybe two energies together that give you that sweet spot with yourself. For you, it might be sacral and throat. Like different people, it might be, for me, it's all solar plexus and third eye.
Yeah. So, you mentioned big. So I know you do aura readings, especially on site
Yeah.
at Adora Therapy. And I'm curious, when you talk about so there's a big aura, many of us may be aware that celebrities tend to have really big auras, but how does that relate with having big or small chakras?
Ooh, great question. So most people, their aura is about the tip of their fingers if you put your hand out like that. And that would be like what we call like a 40-50% aura. So it's kind of like 2.5 feet, something like that. Your aura is smaller if you're exhausted, if you're having mental health issues, if you're drinking and, or imbibed. If you're ungrounded or dealing with something very stressful, or have a health issue, your aura can be smaller. Most people have an average aura. The biggest auras are people who know how to use their energy to be big. And so a lot of times you're right. Actors, performers, they know how to amplify and they use that. Leaders. I think the biggest aura we ever had was a guy who was a postmaster general. So he had, a huge job and he had to deal with all the people. And so the way you make your aura bigger is you have to have balanced chakras. The bigger your chakras are, the bigger your aura. You can't have like low chakras and a big aura. And how to make your aura bigger, obviously balancing your chakras, but then also you can visualize your aura getting bigger. And if you visualize, your aura protecting you and protecting your chakras, often you can increase your aura by a certain percentage. Jim, my partner, does this in the store, and he uses divining rods, and he can literally show somebody where the edge of their aura is, and then he'll have them focus on making it bigger, and he'll go back and do it. And they usually can increase it, like 3-4 inches. And what that is it's just a way for other people to feel you and feel you energetically. But the more they feel you further away from you, the more you are protected from their energy, especially if they don't have great energy. We do, when we get together and share energy in spaces, merge energy. And that's why we feel everybody else's stuff. And that's why it's best to be in relationship with people who are healthy and healed.
Yes. Amen to that. You can always tell. Maybe it's
that's right. Yeah.
Something's a little off. But
yeah, they don't have that on Tinder yet, where it's like you can see the chakras in the aura, but like if you did, you would, or their aura colors, you could swipe yes or no based on that. Now you use your horoscope and things like that, right?
Right. I know so many modalities. So when it comes to, let's say, even virtually, is it possible to read someone's aura? I mean, energy is energy, right?
Yeah.
But when it comes to understanding the size, and from my understanding of what you're sharing, the size of your aura basically means it's kind of like your protection, and people can kind of get a sense of you without being in your space. So it's essentially really useful if you're a public figure. And I would imagine if you have a large aura, it would be difficult to not become a public figure because people are going to kind of feel you and resonate.
Yeah, I mean, it's now too big of an aura, right? It can also be the other way, which is like it may encroach on other people. So it's like everything, bigger isn't better in this case. It's more about like learning how to play with it. So like, let's say you were alone in New York City, walking down the street in a neighborhood, and it was dark and you were scared, and you normally have a big aura. Well, what would you want to do? You'd want to make your aura smaller. You don't want people to notice you. But maybe let's say if you were a 6 foot guy and you're in that neighborhood, you might make your aura bigger so that people don't mess with you. So there's a way to use it in that way. But otherwise, if you think of it like in your everyday life with the people that you're around at work or socially, it's really cool and it's a fun game to play to kind of notice when you enter people's energy field, how you feel. You'll notice very quickly if you like them and don't like them, if you feel something and you're not sure what it is. And then a lot of times I think we think of it as more of a personality. Oh, I like their personality. I don't like their personality. Or, I have a preference to this or that. And the truth is it's really mostly energetic. Who gets it right? Dogs. Dogs and cats, they get it, They trust or don't trust. They bark and react to people if they feel like the energy is slightly off.
Yeah. So, I mean, now I'm thinking of social trends. Let's say that in a certain social circle, sometimes it can depend where you are in the world. There are certain cultures, but also from an aura standpoint, let's say that someone walks into a room and in one room, they are getting a lot of positive social response and they show up the exact same way in another room and they are not well received.
Yes.
And so can we talk about that and how that pertains to your aura and what can contribute to it being either way?
Yeah. So if you're in a room and everybody is more or less unbalanced and you come into that room and you're unbalanced, it's going to be a neutral effect. Basically, you fit in. If you're a highly vibrational conscious person and you're used to vibrating at this kind of cleaner, higher frequency, you're going to feel like these aren't your people, right? Maybe they're drinking, maybe they're doing drugs, maybe they're just narcissists, or maybe they're just superficial. Whatever it is, there's like a low energy, and you feel it. And so it's kind of like you have to find your people, right? People who are at a higher frequency prefer people also at a higher frequency. All of this may be invisible to you, but you sense it, you feel it, and you call it other things. If you're, up leveling energetically and doing things to kind of figure out like how to be your most healed or best self, then you're going to be more attracted to people who are also doing that. So the stuff that really triggers people are people who are energy vampires or narcissists or people who have like a certain ego energy field where like they're always trying to take your energy. And there are a lot of people like that. You could love them. They could be your mother. It could be your sister. It could be, a best friend. But when you leave them, if you're depleted instead of filled up, then there's something. How other people can fill you up or you can fill them up to kind of start the healing process is all heart chakra. So it's really cool that the heart is the center between all the other chakras. There's 7 of them and the heart is number 4. So it's in the middle. And the heart is where you express compassion. And if you open your heart and you get your heart bigger and you don't have a good safety aura, right? Protecting your heart's going to go down and you'll feel that. And you'll be like, ugh, why do I feel this way? Anxiety, obviously, but it can also be a lack of self-love. And that's coming from the fact that you don't yet know how to bring your heart up and protect it. Now, when your heart is up, what can you do really well? And again, we don't teach this. You can be compassionate first with yourself, but then with others. When you're able to send love to even the people who may not deserve it or who you may feel like shouldn't have it, they will heal. And so you then become the healer for yourself and them. It's so amazing when you can forgive and love and be compassionate with people that you don't really think you want to or should. It changes your life. And that's part of the process too. That makes your aura big. Yeah.
Yeah. And let's say that someone, listening in, so it sounds like if there's this concern, I don't know, socially where someone's walking into a room, overall not well received, it could be because, let's say, there's a lot of partying, drinking, maybe the person walking in is vibrating a little bit higher, or how does someone know if they're actually vibrating lower? Because I mean, one thing I also want to be sure to touch on is I do think that sometimes there's a possibility that people could connect, but sometimes like the high vibration can get convoluted with ego.
Yes.
And then people who dress a certain way look at someone who's not dressed a certain way, even though they could be a match. The logical mind or ego, and they'll call it a vibe, and really it's a bias.
Yeah. I think this is probably falls in the realm of dating. So I have a daughter-in-law who's in her late 30s and she's dating. And so I hear these stories of like how people date. And what you find often is that in dating, I'll just use a couple that are male and female, because it's probably the same for all genders. But in this case, the woman wants to feel appreciated and liked, and the guy's there to open her up. And what the guy might do is he doesn't open her up. He talks about himself. He shows who he is. He shows that he's grounded. He shows he can provide grounding and all that. He shows that he's smart, that he's mental. He shows that he can speak and he's assertive. He may show that he has other skills that are more in the spiritual realm. But what he doesn't do is he doesn't open her heart. That's what he should be doing. He shouldn't be trying to open anything else, let's say.
Right.
And so, yeah. And so, but oftentimes that's not what the objective is. And so women walk away from these relationships, these dates and these social situations, and they don't feel like great about themselves. Or then they opened up, and then the next day the guy ghosts them or doesn't show up or just doesn't behave in a certain way. None of that is really ego or anything. What it is just somebody who's really doesn't understand who they are and how they affect other people. And so to me, it's just a lack of maturity. That doesn't mean they can't learn. But how do you teach somebody? You have to show up and show them how to do it. So many of these people, they haven't been loved and they haven't received the open heart. They haven't been told that they can let the ego down and that they can be loved for just who they are. So all of this happens at the heart level, and dating is all mental and physical, and the heart is the last thing we bring to the table because we're so afraid the heart's going to get hurt. But I would say it's the other way around. And that's where everybody, if they learn this skill within themselves to love themselves, they always say you'll find your person when you love yourself and when you figure you out. Well, that's what they're really saying, I think.
Well, can you tell us, on that vein about adoring yourself and why that matters?
Yeah. So adoring yourself the company, the brand is Adora Therapy. And we have this mark that was adore yourself. And the idea behind that is it different, this idea of self-love or self-care? And is that adoring yourself? And the answer is no. Self-care, maybe a bubble bath. Self-love might be, doing things that are going to help you love yourself. But adoring yourself is taking this loving yourself to a place of adoration. And adoration in and of itself is like a ritual. It's like a symphony of love. And it's this idea that when you master that ability to think of yourself as divine, think of yourself as amazing, think of yourself as unique, and then accept yourself as you are, then you're adoring yourself. And that's really what the next level is to me. And when I learned to do that, all the things that I couldn't yet heal, that were trauma-based, family of origin, all the things that kept me from feeling like I could love myself, that maybe were my voice, but also were other voices that I collected from people in my life. When I was able to get rid of that voice and only adore myself, the world opened up to me and all of the things that I asked for and wanted came in. So I feel like I've learned that. And that's one of the things I want to teach people. And that's why I call myself a life coach in a bottle.
Yeah. And, when you brought up points of leadership and also this self-love. And now, when it comes to balancing motherhood, another very key form of love with leadership, how do you go about that?
Oh God, that's a great question. I have older kids. So the mothering thing I did a long time ago before there was all the stuff that they have now around mothering. So a lot of it was like, you just figured it out. And, maybe there were a few books that you could read. And then if you were a working mother like me, then you didn't spend a lot of time with other mothers. So you were clueless what all the stories were people were telling about what it should look like. So a lot of the mothering experience I took from my own mother and from the women I knew. And I happen to have like an amazing mother. So I feel like she taught me what being a mother could be. And then instinctively, because I'm very intuitive, I really feel like I just trusted being a mother. And I have a grandkid. So my son and his wife had a baby a few months ago, and I just got to spend my first visit, and I was watching her being a mother. And what I noticed is that she's a completely natural, instinctive mother. I think there are a lot of women who bring the, how do I do this? I don't know. Let me judge myself if I'm doing it right to their mothering. And just like anything, that's not adoring yourself. So when you have a baby, you adore your baby like day one. You know kind of what to do. Now, there's reasons why that might be harder for others. So it's not a judgment. but it's still, the opportunity is there and the baby's there to help you get there. So, don't be hard on yourself. It's just know that you're divine. You're the perfect mother, and this child is your perfect child, and that's all there is to it. All the other labels that we add are just to sell you stuff, to make you feel controlled, to whatever it is. And so, yeah, lifting the veil on that and just trusting yourself is really key when it comes to that. So my advice for women who are doing leadership and, whether it's building a career or a business and mothering, is there is absolutely no answer. There's no right or wrong. There's only what feels good to you. And then notice where your energy wants to go and where your energy doesn't want to go. If your energy wants to go to work and not go to change diapers, then don't worry about it. That's what your energy wants to do. There's no right or wrong to any of this. There's just how you want to do it. And it's like, have you ever seen a person who may be like overweight and very insecure about their weight? And then you meet them and you feel that. And then you meet a woman who is like as big as they can come, and she is gorgeous and beautiful and funny and happy and has absolutely no care in the world about what you think about how she is. And now imagine if it wasn't even how that she was big, she was just a woman being herself. Like, we feel the difference when somebody is accepting themselves and thinks that they're enough. And we know the difference, all of us. And so that's what we should bring to every relationship.
Yeah. And I mean, it's like a sense of confidence and self-worth it can change depending on your environment, depending on your life stage. And I think that that's a way to kind of have people take their power back, to realize, wait a second, if you're seeing different things reflected in your reality, how are you showing up differently? And not to shame you, but, how can you work with, what maybe got out of alignment?
Yeah. And saying you're flawed is a beautiful act of self-confidence. Being flawed and wanting not to be flawed is the opposite. So a lot of this is you have to meet yourself where you are and love yourself regardless, because that's what you would want your mother to do, or the person who loved you and raised you or birthed you or, supported you. Love me how I am. And we're always trying to prove to ourselves that we're lovable and worthy. And so if somebody isn't going to do it for you, you have to do it for yourself. And then, yes, as a parent or as a leader, like today I have a new team, and we had an issue with somebody who's working for me. And I could have gotten mad. I wanted them to know that making a mistake was not a problem, because we all make mistakes. And then I wanted us to learn from the mistake. And then I also wanted us to solve it. But I could have gotten into all kinds of different ways with me, myself, and the other person. And on the other side of it, I would have hated myself, and she would have hated me, and we would all hated each other. And it would have been like a place where we held our hearts back, right? And instead, it was like how to do that in a loving way and solve the problem and figure it out. And so we're laughing because somebody stole our UPS packages, and we thought we put the wrong address, but it was like the delivery person delivered them somewhere. And so like what happened, we don't know. Maybe they were all together on it. And it was a lot of stuff that we're not going to ever probably get back, but the insurance money might actually cover it. And we were giving it away to an event. So maybe we'll actually get money back, and it'll pay for giving it away and some. So like everything has a silver lining, but it's like, how do you want to approach every situation? Do you want to leave people better than they were, or do you want to destroy them and yourself because you haven't figured out how to not throw your energy out, take your heart away, use your throat the wrong way, go all solar plexi, not trust your intuition, like all the things you can do that are not maybe in the positive, they're all there for you to do. But then there's this mastery of yourself. And the reason you do it that way is because when you're balanced, you stay balanced. And why would you want to screw that up by losing it, right? And being right and being mean and not having patience and blah, blah, blah. We're also sensitive, and yet we forget how much we can heal each other or hurt each other.
I'm curious, with all that you said, I think that it can actually be distilled in a way. How do you define ambition?
I love it. I love that word ambition. I think sometimes people think of the word ambition as a bad word, and especially in correlation to the feminine, like a woman. It's like an ambitious woman, and that is looked at as like a negative. I think it's a beautiful word. I think ambition is the expression of that best self, and it's that best self in action where the person is seeking to find the measure of what it is they want to accomplish and then let themselves go there, right? So
Mhm.
it's literally like this, it's like a space that you can fill with your energy to be your best self. And it can be in your, in your work, right? But it can also be in love and life and anything, right? Um,
A- And what does holistic ambition mean to you?
mm. The word holistic, obviously, in my industry, usually connotes wellness or like something integrative, something that there's a wholeness about it and a circle. So, again, yeah, ambition, if it's defined in the way that we just discussed, then it is a whole healthy piece of who we are. And it's not like an ego thing, and it's not like separate from us. So I love the word. I have goosebumps all over. The word holistic ambition that you coined is just a beautiful idea. And like, I want everybody to have that for themselves, which is this fully integrated ambition as part of who they are journeying into themselves, right?
Thank you. Yeah, I find that some people that those two words together, some people are like, wait, can you define that? And others are like, I understand that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You
I
know?
understand it, and I kind of want to even understand it more. So yeah, I love that
Mm,
you're defining it, because I think that those are the role models that I think we need. We need somebody to express for us the most biggest, beautiful thing we can be, and not hold us in a place where we can't be that, you know. I want to be the most ambitious woman. I think it's great. Don't stop me.
yeah.
Don't tell me I'm ambitious like it's a bad thing. Like, if you
Right.
tell me I'm ambitious, I want to say thank you.
I mean, hey, we can even start no matter what tone is used. We'll start saying thank you if it
Yeah, thank you.
happens.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm curious, for those that are listening that want to learn more about you, about Adora Therapy, how can they do that?
Yeah, so adoratherapy.com is our website. You can always reach out there. We're on Instagram and all the social media channels, and it's Adora Therapy, so you can find us there. You can always reach out to me on LinkedIn as well, Laura McCann on LinkedIn. And yeah, I love meeting people. I love hearing what you're up to. We have a lot of things that we're up to, and so we're always interested in meeting people. As a matter of fact, Stephanie, we were talking about it, that you introduced me to somebody just because you saw the connection, and then that connection has led to a wonderful person coming into our business, Ashley. And so yeah, it's like, connect whatever the way that makes sense. If you feel it, right? If your ambition tells you to reach out and connect with me, I'd love to hear from you.
I love that open invitation wherever you feel intuitively called. And thank you so much for your time today, Laura, sharing your insights. And I'd like to thank everyone at home for listening, watching, and consider this your invitation to subscribe to be the very first to know of the next speaker in our Holistic Ambition series. Wishing you a wonderfully connected day. Until next time.